We have a Michigan win in the books, but we are looking forward to hopefully yet another as Michigan travels to Nebraska this week. Let's break down the week that was and expectations of this upcoming game with our quarterback, Jack Tuttle, on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Over there to my side is our quarterback, Jack Tuttle. We are in the pocket with Jack Tuttle. In the pocket with Jack. What was that? We had another one that Perry Mitchell on the mailbag had. It was I can't remember what it was offhand. Anyway, so we're gonna get before we get into anything, Jack. I want to thank all of our everydayers. We do appreciate you and thank you for all of you who have made us your first listen. We're gonna spend the first two segments actually talking about the game that was against Central Michigan, and then get into Nebraska in segment 3. Jack, finally we saw the offense that kind of open itself up. How much more did you feel like what we saw on Saturday was close to your expectations of the Chip Lindsey offense?
Yeah, Isaiah, 2 weeks ago, we saw that disappointing loss to Oklahoma, and the offense was just stagnant. We were sitting in this podcast and, oh my goodness, what's their identity going to be? Who are they? And this week, Michigan delivered a dominant performance, although, it was against Central Michigan. But this is exactly what we wanted to see, right? We talked about this. This was a significant game for them in finding themselves and who they are. And they did exactly that, putting up 63 points. Let's go. So this week, I feel like we really saw Chip's offense. This is the offense I saw when I was there coaching. And this, I really think they took significant steps towards who they need to be and who they want to be, with spreading the field, getting into empty, using quarterback runs, taking, drop back pass and attacking, and using quick game to get him in rhythm. All things we talked about last week that need to show up and continue showing up against Nebraska. So I was really pleased, and I think they can do even more and keep expanding on this arsenal that they're kind of building up.
So wait, you're saying there's more? That wasn't the apex against Central Michigan. That wasn't the end game. We can't cut the season right now because we've seen it all.
There's always more. That playbook is deep.
Well, we finally at least got to see Bryce Underwood be Bryce in pretty much every way. 235 yards passing and a touchdown through the air, as well as 114 yards rushing and 2 more touchdowns there. What did you see from his performance, and how much does it help him to have a game like this, even with the Central Michigan caveat, going forward, especially considering what happened in week 2 and how difficult that was?
Yeah, I think this will build Bryce's confidence even more, right? He played in a away game already. The nerves are they're shook off. They're done. He played in a big atmosphere. He knows what to expect. So I think that this week that he should show up to the game more confident. He knows what to do. He knows what to expect. They're going to get him in rhythm early, I assume. And, Biff said it in the post-game interviews, right? We all saw Biff's interviews. I think he said something he's got the keys. They're going to open him up. This is it. He called him Batman. I love that nickname. So I really think they're going to keep doing that this upcoming week. And it was super beneficial for Bryce this game because, now he knows, what his strengths are and what it can do. He was freed up a little bit. He can run the ball. He doesn't have to stand in the pocket, right? He doesn't have to just stand there like a tackling dummy. He can move. We saw that. So I think that'll be extremely beneficial for this offense this upcoming week.
How much does it change things when you do have a quarterback that can move only a couple designed runs, it looked like, but still with the 9 carries for 114 yards? It seemed like once that he started to use his legs, that we started to see We started to see the run game also open itself up, right? Going from what looked like about 2 yards a carry to suddenly being like 4 or 5 every time that they got the ball in their hand. How much does that open up things for the offense and for just the rest of the game, the idea of him using his legs?
You kind of hit the nail on the head with that question. How much does it open the offense up? It opens up the offense immensely. It's another factor that defensive coordinators really fear. They do. Because if you have, a pocket passer who doesn't move that much, they're like, okay, we can pressure him. He's not going to get out of the pocket. We know he can't run. All they can do is run with the running backs and get in a quick game play action. They can just get after the quarterback. Now you have to worry about Bryce Underwood getting out of the pocket. He can scramble, make plays. So now the defensive coordinator is like, I don't know about sending this blitz. I don't know about sending this pressure. If he gets out of the pocket, we're screwed. So this is a big factor in this offense now, and they need to continue using Bryce this way to see, impact in big games. Those quarterback runs are what make or break these big games sometimes.
Yeah, and we saw too. It seems like he got a lot more help from his receivers. The tight ends weren't as much of a factor as they were in week 1. In week 2, obviously just missing Marlon Klein, but it felt like the receivers took a big step forward this week. What did you see from that unit? And, how much even did just Bryce's ability to kind of layer the football help them out in a game like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, Donaven McCulley needs to be Donaven McCulley. He is a 6'5" guy, physical. They need to keep targeting him and just letting him play. And I know Bryce and him have a good relationship, and that's going to keep on going. When we saw that, Donaven got 2-something catches on the first drive. They were getting him the ball. Look what happened. Later on, they doubled Donaven on a quick out route on a smash concept. There goes Samaj Morgan over the top on a corner ball. Bryce hits him for a touchdown. He has to keep being a factor. He's going to bring more defenders to him and get double teamed at times, opening up other guys around the field. The tight ends, like you said, too, weren't as much as a factor this week, but we did see a bright spot out of Hogan Hansen, who wasn't really healthy earlier on in the year. But wow, that catch on the sidelines going into the red zone, what a play. It wasn't as good as Colson Loveson's catch in the Big Ten championship against Purdue, but that gave me a little flashback there, Isaiah. I'll tell you that. So, they really need to lean on their best players in these games, and everything will open up. Take what the defense gives you, and when it gives you, you just go. Roll with it.
The last thing I have to mention on that is that exact play, because also that throw, I mean, it was a great catch by Hansen, but
what a throw.
Jake Butt reached out to me to talk about that throw. My guy Steve Dace reached out to me to talk about that throw. Like, how hard is it to layer the football in a way like we just saw Bryce? And how impressed are you that he's a true freshman that can make throws like that?
Well, let me just tell you, a lot of people are seeing, when you're watching a game, it's like a top view. You're seeing down onto the field. Now, when you're standing in that pocket, imagine you're Bryce Underwood. You're standing in the pocket. You got 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" offensive lineman plus 300-pound defensive lineman trying to come after you. You're standing strong in the pocket. You can kind of see everything, but you kind of can't. And he just throws this ball on a line with pure trust in his tight end, puts it in a perfect spot, and he goes up and makes a play. I mean, to have that confidence, to have that arm strength, wow. I was super impressed with that true freshman right there in that moment. I mean, that was beautiful.
All right, we've got plenty more with our quarterback, Jack Tuttle, and we're going to get to a little bit more on the injury front, a little bit on the defense, and then we'll start getting into Nebraska. We will do that here in just a moment. But before we do, and of course, just a little bit behind here. There we go. As I have to wait for a spinning gear. There we go. Finally there. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard to every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible comes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. But before we do, wait for the spinning gear again. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back at this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down for Michigan. Of course, it was Bryce Underwood who delivered in a big way. I can't pick just one play. There are so many, but if I had to, I would pick probably that Hogan Hansen play we just discussed. Just layering the football. Absolutely perfect throw. Type of throw you see from NFL quarterbacks, not freshmen. When the pressure is on, he came through. Underwood did. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance is expected. Underwood is getting just started. Just getting started. Let's learn how to speak English. And just like Bryce Underwood delivered for Michigan, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, Jack. Now that I've learned to speak English a little bit better in that last break, when you look at what happened, let's say either side of the ball, is there anything that still concerns you going forward? I still have some of the same concerns I had before, but when you look at this game that just happened, we can Central Michigan caveat this all we want, but it's Michigan certainly outmatched them. But did you walk away saying, still need to see work here, or this is what I want to see moving forward?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I'm still a little nervous about. I saw strong offensive improvement against Central Michigan, right? But as a fan, as a spectator, alumni of the school, you're thinking, okay, they took a big step this week. They're going in the right direction. They found their identity, for the most part. But are they going to do it in a big game? This is I'm teetering. I hope they do. They need to win the game. So that's one thing that I'm a little back and forth. But if they do, great things will happen for them. Great things. Another thing is injuries. So Gio El Hadid didn't play this past week, and it was a little bit concerning. But you know who I think stepped up for him? I think Jake Guinera stepped up for Gio and did a great job this past week. Super proud of that. I think he's a redshirt freshman now. He didn't play last year, but he was a player when I was. Really proud of Jake Guinera. I call him the Bulldog because he's a beast. He's short and stout. Not really short. He's about 6 foot something, but short to me. But he's a Bulldog, and I think he's going to do great things at Michigan. Another guy is Blake Frazier. Super proud of him. He's been a really good leader and a young guy in that offensive line room. And I think his stock will only trend up. So injuries may play a factor. I'm hoping Gio comes back. I love that guy. He's played great, and he's been a great leader for this team. So I'm hoping he comes back. And I'm really hoping Zeke Berry comes back too this upcoming week. I don't like that feeling when you're walking out on the field and you have a true freshman. Although Sanders has played okay so far. He's played fine. I really want Zeke Berry out there on the field. And if Shamari can come back from whatever, I don't know the full injury he has, that would be great as well. But I feel Wink is gonna. I'm just super confident in Wink. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. He's gonna make calls that are gonna help the defense. I just have this uber confidence in Wink. In the season, as the season goes on, he's only gonna get better. And we talked about that. So I'm hoping they kind of keep climbing up this mountain and reach the peak here this game and keep trending up. But I think the last thing would be. And this would would go back on more of the benefit of last game, but the young players got a lot of playing time this past game. It's something not a lot of people talk about. That is crucial for young players and gaining confidence, experience. We saw a lot of young guys on the field. I don't even know how many touchdowns were scored by new guys on offense. There was a ton. So I think that also helps Michigan a bit this week. And even if the injury factor is in play, I think those young guys can step up.
Going back to what you said about the offensive line, I'm also a big fan of what Guarnera is able to do. I think I noticed him at Oklahoma, right? He came in for, I think, 1 or 2 plays when Brady Norton had a very brief injury, and I thought he played better than Norton had. And Blake Frazier is another guy I'd like to see more of. Can we talk a little bit about, and maybe you'll disagree with me, but Evan Link, I feel like, is a completely different player so far this year. Fans of this show have watched or listened for a long time, and I've told you this off camera before. I would always use the Silicon Valley reference. If I want to see Evan Link like this, not like this, or because he just could not stay vertical, and I feel like you're not seeing him making a lot of those same mistakes. He's not on the ground as much. With that kind of in mind, we won't have to talk necessarily directly about Evan Link, but how much more faith did you gain in the offensive line? Because one of the things Evan Link said yesterday in the press conference was he feels like in this game you saw all 5 working together rather than maybe 3 or 4.
Yes.
And how much more confidence do you feel that having a game like that is going to help the offensive line moving forward?
I agree. I think this year that it was kind of a new unit. There was returning guys coming back. There was new pieces. And Link was a redshirt freshman last year. So he was really playing his first meaningful snaps last year. And it was a very up and down year. Even Evan would say that he struggled a little bit. And what I see from him this year is confident Link. And he's strong. He's becoming one of the leaders on that offensive line. And he's bringing up the young guys with him. So I'm super proud of that kid for just sticking with it, because he was in a competition with Andrew Babalola in camp. I hope I said that last name right. I always messed it up. I was there.
Yeah, you got
but
it.
I love Andrew too. But Link got a little bit of pressure on him in camp. And what does pressure make? Diamonds. So I'm hoping that's what Evan turns into. And I hope he keeps leading. But I'm more confident in their play. But now, you're going to face a different type of front in Nebraska. And we'll get into that, but it's a different type of front. They're going to have to ID it, and they're going to have to, their center, Greg Crippen, is going to have to take control and help out the young quarterback.
I was going to say, I said earlier we were going to talk about the defense. I don't feel like there's much about the defense to talk about at the moment because I
agree.
But let's at least touch on the fact that we got to see Jaishawn Barham coming off the edge, which I didn't think that we were actually going to see him as an actual edge guy, like he never really lined up at linebacker. Maybe it will be different with TJ Guy's return this week, but how much of a disruptor can that guy be?
Yeah, and I've said it before, and people tease me sometimes with saying, oh, well, you say this guy's one of the best athletes ever. Well, let me just tell you this. Jaishawn Barham is one of the just biggest, best athletes I've been around. I said that about Justice Haynes a couple weeks ago, and I do think Justice can be, a great running back at Michigan, and possibly, top 10, top 5 ever to go there. That kid is good, and we've all seen it. And I think the same thing, but on the opposite side with Jaishawn Barham. He is a menace. He is a menace. He's a great leader. He's giant, but he doesn't move like he's giant. He moves like he's a DB. So it's extremely pleasing to see him continue to play well this year. And last year, he was a big factor on defense. And I think fans, and I know the coaches, are relieved that when he's out there, you got a guy running to the ball at all times. You got a guy who's going to hit somebody and hit him hard. So I was always super confident with Jaishawn out there. He's just like a safety blanket, just a nasty safety blanket that's going to be just a villain on the defensive side of the ball. So,
have you ever heard him talk? Because I feel like he's never said a word in his life.
Jaishawn's a quiet guy, but I think when he gets out on the field, he turns into just a different type of beast, and it's kind of cool to see. He just is a different person. So, I love that guy, and I'm cheering him on every week. They should feel comfortable when he's out there.
I think I said this before to you. I know I've said it before to others. So remember last year when at the bowl, we all went to Busch Gardens, right? I don't know. I'm assuming you were there. I don't remember if I got to see you or not, because we got there late and everyone was pretty spread out. I had asked Chad Shepard, one of the SIDs. I said, "Can I go on a ride with anybody?" And he's like, "Yeah, you just got to ask him if you want to go." And I said, "I want to go on a roller coaster with Jaishawn, because I felt like if he could sit next to me and then like we get our picture taken, everyone's, if you're watching on camera, this will make more sense. Listening, it won't. But like everyone's, and when the camera's going, like the big wide face and everything, I just know Jaishawn would be sitting there just like completely deadpan. His hair probably not even moving, right? Like, yeah. Anyway, I digress.
That would sound about right.
All right, we've got more to get to. We've got this Nebraska game coming up, and let's get into what the Cornhuskers present. Let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. Lord knows I don't know how many properties I have. I mean, my Cayman properties. Woo! Anyway, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought using Monarch. Monarch helps you notice the inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, Jack, Nebraska, you mentioned they have a different kind of front. When you look at what Nebraska presents, what are the challenges that Michigan's going to face this week?
Yeah, it's almost like a 3-3-5. It's, and not to get into too much football terms, it's a different defense. It's not a base defense that a freshman would be used to seeing. It's going to present some ID challenges. Maybe they're going to, mix up the coverages a little bit. But I don't think this will be as much of a challenge as Oklahoma's defense, which is safe to say. And I think Bryce will be okay. I think the coaches will set him up well. They're going to kind of unleash the Ferrari, as they said this past week, and they need to keep letting him do that. And they can help him out more with QB runs if he's kind of unsure what he's seeing out there. There's different ways to help him out with this type of defense. It's nothing too crazy in my opinion, and I think he'll be just fine this week.
Now, Nebraska has not given up 100 yards passing yet this year. I guess the question is who have they played? Last game against Houston Christian, which I didn't know was a school that you could play in college football, right? So there's that. Akron, who's long been among the worst in the MAC, and then an okay Cincinnati team with your guy, Brendan Sorsby, leading the charge there. And it seems like, though, that while they have the number one pass defense in the country, we have seen teams run against them. All three teams have had some success running the football. What is your level of concern? And I mean, maybe you just answered it, but what is your level of concern when it comes to the fact that no one's been able to eclipse 100 yards passing against this Nebraska defense?
Yeah, I think you really hit it on the head with, they played some low competition. It's not rare to see, low level competition not eclipse 100 yards in a game. Cincinnati does have weapons, on their team. And it was a little shocking to see that, Brendan wasn't able to get up to 100 yards. I do think it was more first game jitters in a way for Cincinnati, because you look at them now and they're just tearing it up. They're tearing it up, and he's doing a good job. I thought they weren't on the same page in game one. They were driving to win the game against Nebraska in Arrowhead Stadium. They were driving. And, Brennan would even say it himself. He didn't see the safety, and he threw the ball up. And I think it was 2-man on that play. He just didn't see it. And he put the ball up, and it was intercepted. So Cincinnati, I think, wins that game if Brendan can take away that one mistake. I feel good about us going into there. They played in Michigan or Oklahoma pretty strong when they went to Norman. It wasn't a blowout. And with a true freshman quarterback, that's okay. And they're going to take a strong step. They took a strong step with their identity this past week against Central Michigan. We just need to see it translate. We know they have the run game, and we know they can use QB run. So now it's all about putting things together. I feel their pass game will be okay, and they can roll. They just need to do whatever it takes to win.
I got 2 more for you. First, what is your concern level defensively facing Dylan Raiola, guy who is trying his hardest to pretend to be Patrick Mahomes, even to the point where he is playing games in Arrowhead. I know that's not on him, but it seems like, come on, really? That's what we're going with? But I mean, all the joking aside, just facing another guy who is a number 1 quarterback in the country, I think it's kind of interesting to have the matchup between Raiola and Underwood. But do you have concerns defensively in terms of facing him down?
Yeah, I think Raiola is extremely talented. I know Bryce, so they both were number 1 quarterbacks in their class.
I don't know if Raiola finished there, but I know that he was there for most of the cycle. But I've seen different numbers. But I mean, he essentially was considered the top guy last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, and Raiola is extremely talented. Let's just get that straight. But is he going to be John Mateer, run around, QB run guy? No, he's not. And that's the thing that's nice about this week, and Wink doesn't have to worry about as much, is that QB run, scramble around. What Raiola, his specialty is putting the ball in extremely difficult places. He is super accurate. He has arm talent out of the ceiling. It's unbelievable. He can make throws that a lot of people can't make. But can he run? Can he scramble? He's a little bit more, on the, not slow, but on the pocket passer side, I would say. So if they can get to the quarterback, if they can get pressure on the quarterback, and hopefully Zeke's back, and have strong coverage and just hold tight while the defensive line and Jaishawn gets there, then I'm hoping that they'll be okay. But what I'm a little concerned about is the secondary with the injuries and who's going to step up. That's what my concern is there with the defense.
Last one for you. After the last time that Michigan played in Lincoln, you were on that team. You got to drive the team down the field even in that game. Everyone had a good time in that one, except for Matt Rule, who has, in the aftermath, after all the Connor Stallion stuff came out, started complaining about one of his players getting injured and being like, how did Michigan know the play, even though it was one of his defensive players? Mm-hmm. And it was therefore Michigan's offense. So that makes me that I have to ask, Jack, how would the offense know the offensive play that was called?
How would the offense know?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
That's all I got. It's not even a real question. It's just I have to make fun of Matt Rule because that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's
beyond me. Yeah, it was just the domination when we went to Lincoln, Nebraska that year. And it was, I mean, that throw JJ made to Roman, where Roman just went on the DB. Let's see some of that this game. That's what I'm hoping for, Isaiah. Let's see some of that this game.
Me too. I got some of the best pictures that I've ever gotten at that game. I got a picture of that. I don't know how I got a picture of that, but I got a perfect one. Want more of it. So excited to hopefully talk about some continued ascendancy for the Michigan offense and continued domination of the Michigan defense. That's my quarterback, Jack Tuttle. I'm Isaiah Hole. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week as far as this particular version of the show goes. We'll be back tomorrow with the Manifesto with Connor Stallions as he digs deep into all the science he stole. Wait, sorry. Anyway, forget that I said that, Matt Rule. Forget. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.